Welcome to Flex Rental Solutions how-to videos. Today we're going to be going over a new functionality in the system that we're calling custom forms. The basis behind this feature request was some custom programming that we did a little bit back ago for a customer who had account managers that were filling out Google spreadsheets for every show saying, what is this information that I want my account managers to go through and find out and notate all the information for that job? And there's a specific bunch of questions that they were going to ask about this job. And they want to migrate that functionality into Flex. And so what we've done is we've added a new element type called a custom form. And to add further functionality, we added a new custom widget type called the option list. So these forms that we're going to be building are the questions that we want our account managers or people who are in the know to answer. And the widgets that we can drop in are dependent on the different types. So as an example, this is a completed custom form that we did for this customer. And in it, they wanted to display the name of the checklist, the venue, which is pulling out the parent element name, load in, load out dates. Now, they wanted to add some other things. So this is a widget that's called a Boolean widget. Is it confirmed or not? Things like that. They want to put in the room or the hall name. This is what we call a text area. So you can click in here and hand type, and if you need more room, you can click and drag and drop and expand that. Second, we want to make sure that we have different custom drop-down forms. So some questions aren't a matter of text, but you have, what is the elevator type at this venue? Is it a manual? Is it a service? Something like that. Structure support. Are we going to fly this? Are we ground supporting it? Things like that. So those are what we call new option list functionality. We've got other widget types that are basically contacts, where you can search for contacts and drop them in there. And so this is the basis for building this custom form that we can fill out for every job. So let's go into a test system and let's set this up for the first time. You would need to have administrator privileges, and we would go to, say, projects, project elements, and we're going to add this new definition form called a custom form element. We're going to call this a venue checklist. That's going to be the name of the element. We can give it a code, VCL, the plural form of the name, and the name caption. We can go and search for an icon. I'm just going to look for something called check. Maybe you want that check mark or this sort of a checklist icon. Let's use that one. We're going to enable it. We're going to show it on the top level. Top level means will it appear in one of the drop-down menus? Do we want to show it on the new element menu, meaning should it show up on the top right-hand side up here? Or should this always be a child element of something else? For now, we'll hit yes. What menu should it appear on that we should look under? Most people put it under, say, a project module. We're going to go down and use just enable the name. We might want to inherit that name and override it later on. And that's all we're going to use for the first page. You can add numbering schemes, and we can walk through that at a later date. child elements. Say you had a specific document that you want to attach to this checklist. You could say, I want to be able to add a document to a child list of this custom form that we're calling venue checklist. Right now, we don't have any reports generated for this. This is some functionality that we're going to be adding in the near future. And let's hit Save Changes to start that element type. So there's our venue checklist type. And now that we've created it, we can also add, let's say we want to add a responsible person, and we'll call that our account manager. We can inherit that from the top parent job. We may want to override that. And if we start one from scratch, we may want it to use the user default. Business location, when we do searching for stuff, if you have multiple locations, it's very helpful to have the warehouse location associated with that. If you also want to associate a client with this, we can do that. And again, if it's a child element, we may want to inherit that client information from the parent quote. All these are just what contact settings you want to enable and whether they'll pull that information from the parent or not. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some forms. So the form is that list that we created. If we go back to this page where we set this up before, the form is where we put in all this detailed information of what are all the fields that we want to add, what should the caption be, is it a custom field, is it an expression from a field that's located in the database, should it be editable, etc. So our first question might be doc info. What's the doc like at this venue? So I'm going to put doc info, and I'm going to add a new custom field. And the data type is where I'm going to use what we call an option list. And I'm going to hit manage options. And so here I'm going to drop in the first option that I want to appear in this drop-down list. And we'll hit close. There are certain ways that we can limit what information is displayed depending on a permission for that user. For most of this stuff, you're going to leave the permission as none, meaning everyone will be able to see the field called doc info. We'll leave field ID and project elements not filled in for now, and we'll hit save. We're going to make this field editable, and we'll hit add and save changes. So now we've created a form with a single field in it called doc info, which will reference a custom field that we created called doc info with 3 drop-down options. Say we want to put some information regarding parking information. And this is not going to be a, we're going to hit add a new field. And on this, the data type that we're going to put is just going to be what we call a text area. We're going to be able to hand type a lot of information and store it there. And we're going to add that information also. Maybe we want to, for this venue, know whether it has a union, it's a union house. And so we're going to create a new field for this one. And the data type on this is going to be Boolean. It's just going to be a yes or no question. And we'll add one other one. And we're going to call this labor provider. So here we're going to add another custom field. And on the data type, we're going to just add this as a contact so we can search for a contact. And we're going to hit save. So I'm going to refresh this whole page because as of now there wasn't this venue checklist in the dropdown when we logged in, and there wasn't the same one over here. So this new stuff that we added is only brought into the system when we log in. So let's refresh. So now we have a list called venue checklist where we could see all the checklists that we've done. And under new, we've got a new venue checklist. Typically, these checklists are more than likely going to be associated with a specific element such as a quote. So what we'd like to do now is under projects, project elements, we'll open up our quote. And for a child element of a quote, we may want to add a venue checklist option. And we'll hit save. So now, if we open up this test quote that was created on our system, we have a new option under Add Child Elements to add a venue checklist. And this was all started blank, and we could fill that in now. But for now, we'll view our checklist. So there is our doc information. This was the option list that we created with 3 options. Do you want to say this for this checklist is a high doc, a low doc, or no doc? The parking info was text area. So you can fill in all this information however much you want. Again, if you need more information, you can expand and collapse that. This was the Boolean data type, where it's got a yes or a no. This was the contact type. And so here we could search for, let's see if we've got any, local 99 is the labor provider there. And we could hit save. So that's the basic functionality that exists behind the checklist. It's the ability for you to create fields. Those fields can have different data types. whether they're custom drop downs, text areas, yes or no questions, contact, things like that. And then create those and store them. If I wanted to rearrange the order in which those were displayed, there are these grab boxes on the left. So if I wanted the parking information above the dock info, we would drag and drop and hit save. So now you can see, as part of this quote, there is a checklist. And now the parking information is above the dock information. Other things that you can do that people have talked to us about is possibly having multiple checklist types. So for corporate AV stagers, they may have an audio department, a video department, a lighting department, and maybe an operations department. So for those customers, they may have 5 different checklist types. So as part of a quote, you may have multiple checklist types. For our customers who are touring companies, they may have different tour questions. They may have different checklists if it's just a single one-off. Or maybe there's an outdoor event and there's a bunch of questions regarding that you have to answer if it's an outdoor event, whether instead of it's an indoor event. All we can do here is create, do we want to create different checklist types? Is there one master checklist? That's all up to you and what best fits your functionality and your different needs. That wraps up this introductory to custom forms. We'll be adding more functionality to this as we go. We want to make you aware of this functionality and let you test it and see how this functionality helps your company. If you have any specific questions, please contact support@flexrentalsolutions.com. Thanks.